Hi, it's Richard Moore here. So I get messages from people who are about to start businesses, or they're just on that cusp, and they've got an idea, or they're kind of in the first few weeks. And usually the question that comes up the most is, if you could give 3 tips, what would they be, or what would your best tips be, or something along those lines. And I've been building businesses for several years, and what I've found was that early on there was a lot of kind of, what should I do now, should I be doing a bit of this, bit of that, and you try and kind of do what feels logical. And what I do feel is, over the years there's been consistently the same things that people have told me to focus on, who have helped mentor me and helped grow the businesses with me. And looking back and looking certainly at the more recent projects I've worked on, it's the same 3 fundamentals that I would say always have made the difference. So if you're just starting out, or if you're starting a new venture, while there are a lot of things you need to work with, I do feel that these 3 core points of focus are what you need to get right. Because one of the big concerns is when there are so many wonderful ideas out there and great potential with wonderful entrepreneurs and people who are, quitting the 9 to 5 to chase a dream or something like that, is that you end up with a misdirection. And eventually you might get there, but because of a bit of doubt or fear, or not quite knowing what to do first, there can be a kind of a degree of either procrastination or just simply focusing on the wrong things. So here are the 3 things I would say if I was to start a new business literally right now, or if I could go back and speak to my much younger self, I would be saying you need to focus on these 3 things first. So first and foremost, okay, the number 1 tip, I'd say, this is kind of not in any particular order, these 3 are all as important as each other, but first and foremost, get your product or service in some way saleable as soon as you possibly can. So for instance, if you have kind of blueprints or designs of a business idea that are gonna need building and manufacture, and they're quite several months out, even then, if you can have a sense of what the product will be like, you can start the process of selling, because you can pre-sell. And if you look at the crowdfunding approach of things, this is a case of, look, if you give us the money, then we will be able to give you an early adopter edition of the product. If you're offering a service, for instance, you can offer the bare bones of the service first. There are always going to be people out there who say, hey, that's a great idea, and they'll be cool with like some clunky weird version of it. And if you look at technology, for example, there are early adopters of things like mobile phones. They didn't work very well, but they still were plenty of people buying them. And the same with many things, they get refined over time, and hey, your first product's always going to be a bit weak, but if you can focus hard on getting your product or service to something representing a saleable version of its future self, you can start the process of generating some revenue then. So if I just take, I don't know, 8-step startup, for instance, I started selling it when I had 6 lessons on the course actually built. There are 73 in total, but it was with the promise of future unlimited access if you are willing to bear with me while I added them all. And well over a year ago, there are people who are saying, yeah, no problem, I'm happy to buy it. You obviously get a bit of a discount for it, but then they're kind of with you on the journey, and those early adopters are the people you need to tap into. So waiting till you have, seriously, even if you have something of just an idea, you can still sell that as long as your kind of patents are in place and things. Speaking to a guy recently, he needs to get that kind of intellectual property legal side sorted, but once he has, he can start pre-selling, no problem at all. If you do it right, there's no reason why you shouldn't, because revenue is crucial. It gives you confidence, but also allows you to reinvest in your marketing and things at that early stage too. So get something that you can sell, even if it is the concept that you're selling. If it's a future promise you're selling, it doesn't have to be that, certainly not the finished product, not even something that's working. It can just be the promise of it, even with a deposit, for instance. One of my health and wellness and fitness companies started a yoga course. It was a couple of years back, and we just had the idea, my partner and I, and she was going to teach it and I was going to build it all. And within a month, I'd covered the cost of all of the overheads, including buying all of the mats and things like that, because before we'd even done the first course, I got the the deposits in from everyone. So I basically sold a load of things before we'd even had a product ready. So you've got to focus on that. Get everything as fast as possible focused on getting something that's saleable. Okay. The second thing, moving on from that, isn't just about building your product. It is focusing throughout these early stages on sales more than anything else. Okay, positive cash flow is important, and generating income, and with a focus specifically on customer acquisition every single day, has been a real game changer. It always was kind of drilled into me from an early stage, because I've come from a world of sales and business development when I worked in the city anyway. But I do find that there's often too much sitting back and not enough. Even if there is some time spent on sales, it's not enough. It needs to be an overwhelming amount of your time early on is focused on generating new customers and kind of creating that kind of I suppose that those early adopters, sure, but getting involved with as many people as possible early on. You might be doing a lot of deal making. It might be that you've not settled on a price for your product yet. No problem. Do, case by case basis. But the key is that you focus on sales overwhelmingly and early on. Too many people don't even do it at all. Too many people do a little bit of sales here and there. And you do like a half an hour and make a few phone calls, maybe do some Facebook messaging or something. It's not strong enough. You need to be going all out for that, because if you have, the kind of problem you want is where you can't move for people wanting to try and buy your product, which then in turn provides the impetus for you to build it further and so on. Okay, so get that bit right. And I think with sales, there's often this thing of, or rather with building a startup, there's this thing of having a little bit of the scarcity mindset. And what I really mean by this is this idea of saying, I haven't got much capital, which is often the case. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tighten the belt, make sure I'm being thrifty, and I'm trying not to spend too much at the early stage. And then hopefully we might get investors, or hopefully I might be able to get some sales, and that will help me. No, what you want to do is have an abundance mindset where you're saying, right, I need to generate sales because that is the way I will grow. So the more sales that come in, the more money I have, and the more I can expand. And expansion is going to be really, really crucial. I'll come to that in a second. So always focus on generating new customers every day, and a huge amount of your time spent on that. And what you're doing is you're basically saying, if I can get people in the door, I can be in a stronger position with every single day. You should never have to worry about, oh, can I pay that bill? Can I do that supplier? Can I, when you get to hosting websites and paying for Facebook ads or whatever it might be, all that stuff, it should be no problem, because it's just more customers every day. And if I can just do that, then it doesn't matter if I'm spending bits of money here and there in the wrong direction, because I'm getting more each day. Okay. Otherwise, you run the risk, if you're being a little bit scarce with your just doing kind of a small-minded focus with your sales, you run this risk of getting to a bit of paralysis when it comes to spending. Or I don't have much money. I've got 3 clients at the moment. They're kind of precious to me. So I need to know for sure if I should pay for this course or go on this conference or, spend time doing X, Y, or Z. It should be the case that you say, it doesn't matter if this doesn't quite work out. I'm focused so much on newer customer acquisition that actually that will be offset by more money coming in. Each month you should be able to think, I've got a sense of how much I will make based on last performance, sure, but I can also be sure that I will be looking at new customers, and that will hopefully make my numbers go up. So the third point we've covered here, building the product and getting it some kind of saleable product or service that you can move out to people as fast as possible, focusing on sales throughout the majority of your day, especially early on. And in addition, it's this idea of a growth mindset. Okay, so growing and scaling. I've mentioned this so many times in the past, but as soon as is possible, if your company can grow, then it should grow, is what I've found works very well, because you are strengthening yourself. If you are growing, you're giving yourself more options. Now, growing could take a number of forms. It could be that you have another branch. It could be that you have other people working with you. Maybe you grow by having an assistant to just take some of the menial tasks off. Maybe you're growing by, for instance, having people employed that are going to help with the social media, because you've got to get the message out as much as is possible. Networking is crucial at this stage. It may be that you're looking at getting some people to help sell on commission only basis. Look, every time you sell one of my products, you get 20% or something like that. If you can focus on growth as much as is possible, you're always striving to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And it means that this small kind of seed that you're trying to protect and this small amount of money that you probably need to get by is being pushed into or pushed away as the point of focus is a case of abundance. Let's just see how much we can get, how much growth we can get. Let's focus on shooting for the stars, which means probably that the very small amount of money you actually need to get by in terms of keeping the company afloat, or if you're doing this full time now, paying for you to live, it probably isn't that much. And you probably find that you're going way beyond it. If I need $4,000 a month to survive, then I would be focused on generating 10 and then 20,000 and so on, because I'm key focus is making sure I have growth on my side. Okay, so all times, can I grow? What can I do now to make this bigger? Is there a new iteration of the product? The moment, if you're building courses or offering coaching, or if you're building a product even, what other things can you also sell? Can you sell something additional? Can you upsell people? Can you create a different repackaging of your services? What else can you do in this space? Can you create now a second product and a third product? Because some people might not want the first one, the main product, they might want something else instead. You know, when I was probably halfway through building 8-Step Startup, I was then already sowing the seeds and starting to build my next course as well, and I was looking at other options and other things I also do. So there's a number of packages behind the scenes that I also work on. All of this is all about growth mindset. Otherwise you focus on the one thing, which ultimately people may not buy or may become a bit stale. Either way, no matter how great it is, it will eventually need replacing or need something to kind of bolster it. So you've got to have that growth earlier than you think. Hiring people should be as soon as you possibly can, because a company is when you have people around you. As Jeffrey Garrett, the dean at Wharton Business School, told me, you've got to get into this kind of idea that there's an ecosystem around you as an entrepreneur. Get people who can do these different things. If you've got someone who can maybe do funnels for your sales online, get them engaged, give them a commission so you can focus more on other things. If you can get a web developer to focus on building the website, they'll probably do a better job than you and they've got the time to do it. Yeah, it might not be as great. Yeah, it might take a bit more time, but you get to focus on growth in other ways. So these are crucial things. If you get these things right, and look, there are many other things that are important as well, such as focusing on understanding your finances and how to invest the money and reinvesting as well, staying pretty broke early on. Another thing is, of course, things like networking. You should be mad on social media at the moment, giving as much value as you possibly can so people start hearing about you. Use these salespeople, if you're growing a team, to spread the word as well. But if I'd had at the very start someone say these are the 3 things you've got to focus on, I know I would have got the successes I have even earlier. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Get something you can sell as soon as possible, and you'd be surprised, even if you feel like that is your finished product, this is kind of what you would want to sell. Strip it back even further. Where are you right now? Could you even just sell a promise of buying the product maybe at half the price when it goes live? And people will want to drop a deposit for things like that. Second thing is sales. Make it a really strong part of your day. As you breathe in and out, you should be selling just as much as that. So pretty much all of your time early on. And finally, making sure your focus is always on, right, what's next? As well as customer acquisition every day, what am I bringing next? It's not a case of, oh, well, hang on, we're mid-late October, I'll launch something new in January, and we'll wait till January 1st. No, it's now, always now. What can I do now? Maybe let January 1st kind of come around in its own time. You need to focus on what's the next product. Okay, those 3 things I would say are my top 3 tips. And if I could have a word with myself 10, 15 years ago, it would certainly be to say those 3 things would really make the difference. What about for you? If you have anything you want to add, let me know. If you want to understand these things a lot more, you can contact me on richard@8stepstartup.com. Also, of course, there's the 8stepstartup.com website, so you can check it out there. The course gives you a lot of detail and insight on how to do these things with practical steps. So hope that helps. Give me some feedback if you have any thoughts of your own, what things would be important to you if you're going to share with an entrepreneur just starting out. Have a great Monday, a great week, and I'll speak to you really soon.